This conference will now be recorded.
You know me, with me around, everything gets misdirected.
Hey, that's all right. So, how is everyone? Same
Good.
old, same old?
Waiting for the 80-degree weekend.
Yeah. Yeah. I see you're out of
Actually,
the
I wish.
forest.
Actually, yeah, that was after the after show thing. We was trying to do, trying to show them some stuff on the camera. I could not get it focused unless I held it right in front of my face. So that beta green screen that this thing's got works good, except if you want to show something.
Kind of messes with it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, cool. So, yeah, I think I'm over my 2 or 3 week long panic attack finally with this switch over and all that. I feel pretty good about it now. So, I'm a lot calmer. I got a bunch of my YouTube videos that I've been needing to get up published yesterday or late last night. So, trying to get caught back up on that stuff. So, oh
That was a
no, Chris, we have 200 and something notifications now, and we had three 10 minutes ago. So that automation just went. And I think it does send an email to every time it closes.
Hopefully you get them, not me.
Yeah, so maybe the pain. I think the end user might get them. That could be bad. We've had trouble with that before. Okay, so my panic attack is back temporarily. We're starting to do some automations to close tickets that are years old that got imported into the new system, and I think it's sending out emails to everybody.
So every single ticket you've ever had, you're going to have to go back through and close. That's funny. Well, sort of.
Well, we're gonna have to explain it now. So okay, I spoke too soon. I always do that. I jinx it.
Call
So
Grant up. He needs something to do. He just sits there all day long doing nothing.
we'll figure out an automation, and eventually we'll not bother anyone anymore. Uh, but all in all, I think it's gone off pretty much without a hitch.
It's
A
sort of
few little, huh?
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say
Go
it's
ahead.
sort of mesmerizing looking over Chris's left shoulder, just sitting there
Oh,
watching
the
his move back and forth and
printers.
real slowly. Yeah.
You making mounts? So you're muted.
You're muted.
Oh,
Yes. Yep, I'm back. That's a barrel, and then I got one other one back there, and then another one over there.
Oh crap.
But no mounts today. No honeycomb pins either.
gotcha. So oh yeah, talking about Lightburn mounts or Thunder mounts. That's our proprietary mount is a little more substantial. We think we started out with those. We got our first batch of OEM cameras that are going to go out, and they actually have they're labeled on the side of the lens, 120 degree and 85 degree. It's actually written on each lens. So that should help a lot of things greatly because we were always like, which camera do you have? I don't know. How do you tell? You know. So now we got them to fiber engrave the actual field of view on the side of the lens that they're
That's
sending
cool.
to us. So little things like that excite me because that just means there's less things to worry about. Less things that could get confused.
I've
So
still had problems with mine. Believe it or not, I gave up.
isn't that like not your first camera either?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's got to be operator error.
because
No,
I don't know how it's operating. You the one that helped set it up last
I
time. I
I
gave you
know
full control.
we've gone through the setup a lot,
The
and
first one was garbage. The second one, remember, the first one didn't work. We just
mhm.
basically crap shot that one. I think Chris was even involved with that one. I think him into talking to him on that one. And then the second one, we figured out the 120s don't work well, don't piece well with the 35s.
So we
So
got
then
you a
this
95 or an 85.
85, yeah, and I've had to readjust it just using the Y and X axis adjustment so many times. I gave up on trying to calibrate because it does not stay calibrated. And I've tried
Gotcha.
with the
Mhm.
actuators. I've tried loosening them. I've reset them, like you and I've talked. I've even done it again.
Reducing the flex in the
Yeah,
struts and all that stuff.
I
Yeah.
think beginning to wonder if it's just not a strut issue. If it's not, because there might just not be positioning. I might have maybe a strut that's weaker than the other one. and it just might not
You would
be
still
coming up
get
right.
some sort of uniformity there. You would think that it would not be just totally random all the time. I don't. I don't know, man.
Because if the struts are not, theoretically, one's not as strong as the other one, and it's just like, one's way stronger, then you're always going to end up just a little bit off
Yeah.
when you're
See,
coming up.
the only thing that's weird about that is I think I've only ever had to replace two struts ever. Not
Well,
saying they can't go bad, but that is super super atypical if that is in fact part
Does your
of the
shop
reason.
and it goes up and down fine. I mean, I've had absolutely no problems with that part of it. I don't know this. It's the only thing.
is it,
It's only one variable that's in there.
We can keep toying with it. Um,
oh, do you have temperature fluctuations in your shop?
No, yeah, I'm pretty well climate controlled and humidity controlled. Well, except for the wintertime, my humidity drops in here, but I step.
yeah,
I
I
step
can see the
between.
temperature. I can see the environment being how much pressure, it affects the pressurization of the strut.
I
But
sit between 69 and 71, 2, 3, the absolute most if I've got a sunny day. Until I go to AC time of the year, and then I drop it to about 67 in here, and then it stays 67 constantly. So it's just once it's set. But since we've had these cameras in, it's always been, since we've had this issues, it's always been in the 69 to 71 range. Today it's a
that's
little
just
warm in here.
insane because the installations and the calibrations have been textbook.
Yeah.
Every time I'm like, man, this has got to be it. Because it was dead on when we did it.
Yeah, and it was
Um,
like 2 or 3 days later, I noticed it started just being a little wonky. So I checked to make sure that I played with the um, autofocus. So
mhm.
I did that, try to make sure, and it was still coming up the exact same thing every single time that it autofocused with the lens, because I could, have the exact same gap in there. And so I'm like, well, it ain't the autofocus. And I'm going, what is this? I'm like, I give up. I was wasting too much time on it. So I just basically put the laser where I want it at, and then I use the X and Y axis for that job, the adjustment, adjust it, and then it'll stay on for that job. Sometimes it'll jump out even during the day that I'll have to
Hmm.
come back and redo the XY axis.
That's strange that there's that much
Yeah,
variation there.
I've even had it to the point that it's like negative what the heck is the numbers? Negative 5.6 on one and then positive 2.3 on the other.
It
I
still
don't
sounds
remember
like a
which way it goes.
distance issue from the lens almost. If it's changing position and scale, you know, I don't know.
The only other, I mean, that's why I started thinking maybe it's not, the bed is not coming back up to perfect stop every single time with the
Hmm.
autofocus. And I kept thinking maybe that was it, but then that's why I kept dropping the bed all the way down, then hit autofocus and bring it up, and then take the little gauge and stick it on its side. And it was pretty much nailing it every single time. I mean, within micro, I mean, just so minute that it would be
Yeah.
ineligible to me screwing it up that far. So I don't know what the other only option is the lid. I mean, that's the only other variable that's in the
Well,
whole scenario.
you could detect that pretty easy if you don't move your bed and just go through a bunch of cycles, open and close it and check it, open and close it and check
I've
it.
done that and it's jumped a little bit, and I've always tried to make sure that I'm releasing at the exact same time. So when I bring the
Mhm.
lid up, I try to be like, okay,
I've
we're
been
here.
so like 1, 2, 3, go.
That's about where I'm like up, let go, and it's like don't let it go easily, let go the exact same way every single time.
Well,
I
once that thing gets to its end of throw, I mean, it's going to naturally, those struts are going to naturally want to go to the same place every time to their full extent, you
Yeah,
know.
you can almost feel it when it wants to go past that breaking point of going up.
Yeah.
And I try not to let it slam up because if you just sort of fling it up, it's going to slam. I don't do it that way, but it's just you can feel when you get right to that point that okay, I can let go and it's going to go up easily the rest of the way without
Yeah.
jarring the hell out of everything.
I don't know. Maybe you're just rough on that. Maybe you're just rough on it.
Maybe I just beat the hell out of that camera and don't realize that I don't know. And I've checked the
You're
tightness.
sleepwalking and going over there and moving it. then
I
going
blame it
back
on
to
the
sleep.
dog a
See,
lot. I blame it on the dog, and she just looks at me.
yeah.
But I've checked the tightness of the nuts. I've got zip ties on it. I even changed the zip ties out and went to another set of zip ties. I
hmm
mean, it's just being stupid with stuff. And I'm like, yeah, this is just weird.
You've got the Lightburn mount.
Yeah, he was going to send me the new one, but I don't think they were out because he was wanting me to proto that one out when he first got him. He was going to,
I,
and I don't think that they were out yet when they sent this camera out.
I've got a few here, but I forgot if they're for sale on the site or whether they're for me to use for things. I was going to put a few of them on the site, on the e-commerce site, but
And I've got it mounted. I'm mounted. Oh hell, I'm mounted down towards the handle.
mhm.
I'm more mounted down lower than where you're at because I did the whole plumb, the plumb bob thing and got the exact center of the bed and was being a goofball. So I'm mounted towards the handle and not mounted towards the center strut or the
It's
center glass
okay if you're
strut.
plumb bob.
Yeah, plumb bulb. I'm trying to keep politically clean. Which is hard.
Miracles never cease to amaze me.
I try. My wife said, it's amazing. She says, you can go to this whole completely mellow thing all of a sudden. Um, but yeah, I don't know where the problem's lying because I'm generally pretty good about troubleshooting this stuff. And it's just sort of dumbfounding that the only variable I've never checked is sitting here looking at it is the two hinges on the back of the lid. And I don't think that those would, unless they are somewhat loose.
I think if you kept the bed in one spot and did that test like you were talking about, where you'd open the lid and do all of that mess, that would evidence itself then. That would be evident, when you were manually articulating that and double checking.
Yeah.
And even if you let it fly up a few times, if it always returns to the same spot, that's an indication that mechanically all of the lid and all that stuff is sound, which goes back to the mount or the cam sliding around or a distance issue, but you've checked your autofocus. I mean, see, that's what I'm saying. Everything that are the usual suspects, we've eliminated as variables.
The only thing I've not done is take a tape measure every single time I open it up and measure from like at an angle and try to keep it consistent from where the front metal piece is to the top, the edge of the lid, and picking the exact same spot so I could do a consistent millimeter centimeter measurement because you wouldn't want to do inches because you'd less, more of a variable there. That's the only thing I've not done yet.
I mean, it may not hurt to take some physical measurements and see if we find some sort of issue, or even measuring from the surface of the material to the lens.
Just leave it to me.
But we might need more weird data like that. We might need some more granular data if we're going to try to figure out what's going on, because all the normal stuff we've hit, and that normally mitigates whatever issues we have. But
yeah,
and then I mean, unless you're located on an old Indian burial ground or something, maybe there's just some voodoo going on there. Maybe you need an exorcist instead of a camera.
Before we bought this place, there was a ton of arrowheads that come out of this hole.
Maybe it's just going to be.
The previous owner what sort of sucked is he had basically got all the arrowheads out of here, and it was in the hundreds that came out of our property.
Wow.
Which I'm like, yeah, I wish I would have found those. That would have been.
I'd grab some white sage if I were you.
Yeah, that stuff don't bother me none.
Hey, Brian.
Hey, man.
Last week, I caught bits and pieces of it. We were talking about lenses, and you made a comment about with the 4-inch lens that you lose half of your power.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Can you put it in English and slow down?
Okay. So let's say, for instance, that you have your machine firing with the 2-inch lens at 50% power. Okay. It's gonna make a dot, whatever size that dot is. Chris, do you care to guess on dot size on a 2-inch? I forget. I don't have it in front of me.
Yeah, I don't. It's tiny, and it's also going to vary on your.
Yeah. Okay. So let's just say it's a millimeter in diameter. just
Say
for the
it's the
sake.
end of a pencil. Say it's the end of a pencil.
Well, I'm going to say a millimeter, just because I can quantify that better than saying one end of a pencil or two ends of a pencil.
Well, this is the reason I was going to end of a pencil versus the end of a ballpoint pen.
Well, yeah, but so the 2-inch will be, let's say, it gives you 1 millimeter diameter spot size. All of your laser energy is going into that 1 millimeter.
Exactly.
So if you put a 4-inch lens on there, it's going to double your spot size. So now your beam is 2 millimeters. You have the same amount of power spread out across 2 millimeters now instead of 1.
Okay. Okay.
Imagine taking your hourglass and your sun sitting out in the sun, and the closer you move it, the finer beam you get. That's also gonna relate to how much burn you get, because that effectively attenuates the power
So
as you spread it
now-
across a wider surface area.
Now with that, we go in reverse. We drop to a 1.5-inch lens. We're now to 0.75 of a millimeter or half a mil.
Half a mil, and you've effectively doubled the beam density, which doubles your power in effect. So an HR head will actually be have twice the beam density as a stock 2-inch.
But with your changing of your lenses, I got the power. I understand that now. But you're talking about the beam is wide. It comes down to a point. It stays at a point for a certain length and then widens back up.
Basically,
And
yes.
the 4-inch lens, it's longer that it stays together than
Yes.
the 2-inch, than the 1.5 or the 1-inch, blah, 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 blah.
Yes.
So
There's
the
a
4-inch
lot more focal tolerance on the 4-inch.
Okay. So you get a 1/2 inch versus a 1/4 of an inch. Or whatever. I use
Or
those.
whatever. Exactly. Yeah, right. Right. That's basically the way to look at it. Yeah.
So in other words, if I'm running a 4-inch lens and I've got it at 75% power that I'm running it through, and focus doesn't matter at that point. All I'm really pushing then at the beam or at the surface or wherever of the material is 35%.
Well, in the center of the beam at its most focused point. So focus still matters. It's just that it's a little more forgiving. The focal plane is, yeah. So you still need to, focus still matters. In a 1/2-inch piece of wood or a 1-inch piece of wood, focus matters. On a 4-inch lens, I don't use it on anything thinner than 10 millimeters or so anyway. But if you did, focus probably wouldn't matter that much. When you get to 1/8 inch and, stuff like that, focus doesn't matter. But on a 1/2 inch, it can still matter. You still want to focus in the center. But it does give you a less taper. You get a lot straighter edges because more of that 4-inch beam the taper is gonna be a lot less evident.
Yes.
Because it remains straighter in the center for longer.
So
basically what you said.
So running a 4-inch lens, then say cutting a 1/2 inch or 3/4 of an inch. With the 130, you can cut up to 3/4 of an inch. You're talking about then just going ahead and just about maxing out the power because of the changes in the spot size and the power. So if you're going to do that, just up it to 90 to 100%.
Well, depending on what you can actually make it through on. With 130 on my machine, if I try to cut 3/4, I have to be at like 1 millimeter per second, and I just keep turning up the power until I finally get through. And then if I can't, I just can't. I don't want to go much slower. I could probably go. Can I go a 1/2 millimeter a second? I guess I could.
Yes. So and this goes back to the spreadsheet that we're doing for the 130 for the power. We were just cutting 3/8 of an inch sheeting, or what is it? Whatever she got. The crap pine plywood
4.75 inches.
that you can pick up at the box stores. 4-inch lens, 75 power, and then got it down to what, 7 millimeters?
7.
2 passes, but oh Lord, it was unusable because of the amount of, well, granted, it's pine or spruce or whatever, so it's sappy anyway, it's going to catch fire, and pretty much lost the material because of that. That's why I was kind of asking. We started at the 75, just trying to see.
Now, I don't cut a lot of stuff, not like a lot of you guys who make stuff every day, so this may be a little jaded. but I always like to try to cut in one pass, because anytime you're doing two passes, your first pass, all of that stuff is coming back out of the material, and there's going to be a lot more char. If you're able to get all the way through in that first pass and blow all that stuff, all that debris field out through the bottom, and be able to do it in one pass, it's going to be a heck of a lot cleaner, a lot less smoke, a lot less char, and be more effective. I'd rather go slower and make it in one pass than go faster and do it in two any day.
Well, we have learned about slower that depending on the material, it will set it on fire.
Okay. All right. So see, there's some stuff that I haven't experienced, so that's good.
So I assume you're on a aftermarket air compressor?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, lowering that 4-inch head, one, it gets the air closer down to it, right? And then to Brian's point, there's also a features. It's where you start at the starting point and you basically do an initial fire off so that you can create a hole through the material and then start proceeding as well. It's that start delay where you
Yeah.
can basically give it. It's almost like doing like a plunge cut start and then going.
Yeah,
To
it's
get all
kind of
around.
yeah.
haven't
If you didn't want to use a lead in, a lead in would
Yeah.
probably accomplish a similar
Yeah.
effect.
Yeah, so yeah, combine that with lead in too. So you start off this material, burn your initial hole so that you know you've got an air hole underneath for all that debris and crap to
Yeah.
go underneath versus shooting back up in the surface,
Yeah,
making
it'll
a mess.
Setting in light burn.
Yeah, that start pause,
Yep.
it'll make it where at the very beginning you can define a time that it'll sit there before it actually starts moving. So you can let it dwell there long enough to burn all the way through, and then it'll start going instead of ramping into it, like you may
Yep.
think it would do.
And to Tommy's point, if the longer you sit over there, the hole becomes less of a laser beam spot, and it does get larger. So you're going to want to time that to say, okay, I know I've plunged through and then go,
Yeah.
versus just sitting in one spot. But that is a feature. If you go to the advanced tab on your line layer, you can utilize that. It's up to 10 seconds, and I think you can even do 100% power while you do it.
Oh, for the piercing, and then
Yeah.
have it default
Yeah.
back to whatever the layer setting is.
Yep.
Like we'll
What
try it.
pressure air do you use when you're cutting?
Oh, what is it? I'm not supposed to go above 45 or 55%, something like that is what.
55 is the max system pressure that's recommended on the back of the machine.
I think we're somewhere 45-ish, 50.
Now, can your compressor keep up with that for the duration of the cut?
My compressor can keep up with.
Okay.
Yeah, it kept up
Yeah.
with my power hammer. So. Yeah, this compressor will keep up with both two lasers running at the same time.
Okay.
And at what? I don't know. I'm trying to look at the damn gauge behind everything. I think we've got it set about 45, 50 PSI right now.
And then when it's running, do you ever look at that gauge to see what it's actually
It
able
never
to
moves.
maintain?
It
Okay.
never moves. But you're always looking for something interesting to talk about, so I figured I'd ask.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
And the
Tommy,
plywood
did you say you're buying the standard material at like a Lowe's or a Home Depot? Step up and buy the nicer wood. So right now, I've got a piece of what is it? 5mm Home Depot standard old plywood.
5
I even
millimeter
have trouble
unflamed.
cutting that, and it catches on fire. There's empty pockets where you can actually see through the wood, thickness wise. Then you hit glue pockets. So between the empty air pockets where you have the piece catching on fire and the glue, which is like hitting a piece of steel, I gave up. And all I buy now is at least their premium grade wood. And I'm starting to now reach out to like JDS and some of those other online vendors who sell you the higher premium where it's only a foot wide by 2-3 feet long, or a local supplier who's got really good wood, because anything that you buy from Home Depot out of the standard aisle in a 4x8 sheet is horrible right now, or Lowe's or any of the big boxes.
Any
So
of your
you thought-
CDX is going to be bad. Look at your glue lines on the side. If it's a
Oh,
darker
sterile.
glue, if
It's
it's a
sterile.
dark, no, before you cut it. If it's a
Oh.
Yeah.
darker glue, that will be more exterior grade CDX. You're going to have problems cutting through it because of that glue. If you look at your glue line on the side of your ply, you can barely see it. If it's almost like clear, you can barely see it. You're going to have an easier time cutting through your ply.
And depending on from what I understand, depending on the manufacturer of it, when it's manufactured, there's metal flakes that are spread out through the glue so that it can be x-rayed to determine glue distribution when they press it. That doesn't help either because the CO2 is not going to cut through that. And I've had it actual chip razor blades and struggle with the little pieces. But George, you're absolutely right about not using box store crap, for lack of better words, not knocking any of them. We were doing this as a sign for somebody and just trying to get it done and get it quick because they were cheap. And then also
I
wanting
quoted only $45. I still have to, glue the other two pieces together that I cut and then prime it and paint it. So I'm making no money on it at all. But he let me go to buy wood by myself today.
If you look at the glue lines, if I get this to focus, minus the dog here.
yeah.
See how dark the glue lines are?
Uh-huh.
That's
all your CDX. That's more of your exterior grade CDX plywood, which that glue's a lot harder to cut through.
Yeah, that might as well be kryptonite.
Yeah, that there's going to be a lot harder.
No, exactly. But we also know that a lot of people out there are just grabbing that stuff because that's all they have access to. I've got a high-end plywood distributor in Louisville.
That's what I was going to say. Go to a cabinet shop.
I can get Baltic birch plywood by the pallet load shipped to me if I choose, real quick and easy because it's not that far.
You're not now.
This was like a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, this was a couple weeks ago.
Well, that's the new standards that they just did with the embargoes. Yeah, we're all in trouble with that. Granted, all the Baltic birch doesn't come from Russia, but that is a huge supplier, and there's a new embargo going out that's going to inflect the Baltic.
But 90% of what we do is we just cut hardwoods.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like plywood. I don't like building with plywood.
Yeah.
So it's easier just to mill down solid walnut, cherry, maple, and that's where you get into the different. Ambrosia maple cuts different than hard maple.
That's cool. All that stuff, at least the stuff that I've run, and I haven't done a lot of thick stuff on that, but it all just cuts like butter compared to this other. So.
Yeah, you're better off just, Tommy, like you said, just go to your local cabinet. That's what I was getting ready to tell you to do, is just go to a local cabinet shop. I think, too, if you want to look at Home Depot and them, I think it's the Columbiana or Columbia, which is more of an interior grade. I've heard some things about it, and I haven't played with it yet. But look at that if you want to go on the box stores and check the glue lines out and see what they're looking like. I haven't got to play with it yet versus your standard CDX.
Yeah, there is
supposedly it's a little bit better to use.
That a lot of people are talking about, that it's pretty good stuff, actually. I've seen a little bit of chatter about that in the groups. So. Sorry, I was looking at the tickets. Just want to make sure nothing falls through the cracks. I think Chris is in there too. We actually have a forum, and there's one response on it. And the idea of the forum, I know Facebook, you can just get on there and ask, but it integrates in with the searches. So as we get some discussions about maybe that kind of stuff that, we were talking about with Tommy, and then, about the different lenses and focal length and all that kind of stuff, we could chat about it on Facebook. But if we could ever get that forum going, I think that would be a neat thing where you could go and find Thunder specific information, and it would be in the search.
One thing about the forums, it's easier to find stuff than it is on Facebook, because Facebook, the stuff just disappears.
Yeah, well, and
forums,
so many other things get embedded in the threads. You'll be talking about focus, and somebody will be, well, what area are you running? And then it just goes all over the place.
Yeah.
So
the old school forums still have a good purpose.
Yeah. So, and I think I've got the ability to take a ticket and turn it into a forum entry, a topic, or vice versa. I could take somebody that had a problem on the forum that maybe can't be answered publicly or would be too involved, and we can just move it over and convert it to a ticket with one button. So that's kind of neat too. That if there's a ticket that we solve that has some good information that would be good to the general public, we can convert that into a topic, in the forum. So that's kind of neat. It works both ways.
Yeah, and stuff doesn't, like I said, doesn't get lost, or the issues you deal with Facebook of, like,
and that's
said,
why
someone
Lightburn loves their
hijacking.
forums so much. That's their primary mode. Hey Jason, I know they've got their support email, and they've got a full ticketing system built in that too, which to most people, again, it just looks like email, just like ours does. But their forum is what they prefer because you can keep all that information, together. So
Sometimes the old stuff's better.
I despise the Lightburn forum.
I don't use it very much either. I'll say that.
It's find the information that I need, and then it's even harder to find someone who's answered it in intelligible English and not in I have a PhD in engineering English.
This is why I need to come out and hang out with y'all.
You do.
Like I said, we'd all get in trouble, I think.
Yes.
Especially after last week's after hours meeting.
All right.
What's everybody using for pressure when you're air pressure when you want to get a nice dark engraving? You guys going high, low?
Defocusing. Instead of focusing, it's 5 or 6, because my general focus is at 5.2 basically. I back it all the way out to 7, and you'll darken drastically. You can keep. I don't even mess with my air pressure.
Now, also keep in mind, defocus. You can still be out of focus and be in the other direction. So if you were cutting something and you also wanted to defocus for the engrave, you could focus into the material 2 or 3 millimeters, and you'd affect the same change on engraving. You see what I mean? The beam would be the same size; it'd just be on the other side of the hourglass.
But the thing is, though, is you start burning in deeper.
If you're cutting, you want to.
No, but
I see what you mean.
When you're engraving, you're going to burn deeper.
Because the hot spot is in the surface of the material.
Yeah. So if you're wanting a light engrave, basically what I do is I do all my light engraves, and then I don't send the cut, and then I just refocus to run my cut.
Gotcha. Yeah, you could use full Z-axis control for that if you wanted to.
I don't, because I don't get brave enough to have that possibly screw up.
Now, that's been popping on for a few people, apparently randomly. I don't know the circle, but I've seen 2 or 3 people have the Z-axis control enabled at some point, and I don't think it's because it was intentional. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, I just do it manually, so that way I'm in control of it.
It'd be nice if you could automate that.
If you're dark engraving, you need to slow down the laser a little bit too.
Yeah, defocus, slow down. I typically use less air for a darker one. Back to that question, because that's one of the reasons Glowforge does so well in engraving. You'll see a lot of people from the Glowforge world go, man, the Glowforge does these really dark, nice, contrasting engravings on light wood, but the Thunder really doesn't. You have to defocus and fake it. But there's some truth to that, because the optics in the Glowforge are not as high quality as the optics that are in the Thunder. The Thunder is so effective and efficient at burning. Sometimes you don't get the char that you want. So we do have to defocus and do that stuff. But they have smoke assist. They don't even have a true air assist. And I think that's part of the thing that helps with the contrast that they're able to achieve.
I don't think.
What material are you trying to get, or are you engraving on?
Sorry about that. I forgot to take myself off mute. Chris was helping me with it a little bit earlier. So just little 5mm plywood. I'm making refrigerator magnets for my church group. This one I masked, right? So I ran masking on it. Nice, clear, crisp lines. Didn't have to do anything to it afterwards other than peel all the mask
fairly
off.
dark to me.
Yeah.
Right. That came out great. When I don't mask it, see all the shadowing you get from the soot that falls down?
Yeah, you're just gonna have to hit with some.
220 grit sandpaper will take that off.
Hit it with some probably 220, 400 grit sandpaper, you'd be fine.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing. Just I'm trying to speed up production, not slow it down.
And if you don't want to have to try to sand each one of those individually, you can always take your entire sheet out, lay that back down on the table, and then lay those back inside of where you cut it out. And so you're not sitting there trying to hold on to a tiny little piece. And
sand it right in there.
So that way you can sand the entire sheet off.
And there's another thing that you can do depending on how you're finishing them, whether you have the equipment or a rattle can, you can take and lightly sand it, spray it with like a rattle can of lacquer or shellac, and then all of that soot will wipe right off.
Yeah, anytime you engrave any kind of intricate stuff, it's best to do a finish on it. Whether it's a final finish or like I don't know who said that, I think it was Tommy. But whenever you're doing stuff, anything really, plaques, things like that, do a finish on it. Doesn't even have, it could be a sanding sealer or something that doesn't affect your ability to stain it later. The biggest thing is you want to seal up when you go to rip that stuff off, it doesn't leach into the wood. Like a light coat of lacquer or something like that's the best, or poly. Because that stuff, you literally just take some Windex or something like that, spritz it on there, wipe it off, and you're done.
If you've already, like Jason was saying,
that,
you've already got it clear coated, then it's just lightly damp with something. If you don't have it and you go to use like a baby wipe or LA Awesome or whatever, the water in that's going to raise the grain, so it's going to make it very rough. And then you're just going to have to resand the damn thing anyway. So
yeah, it'll soak it into it a little bit too.
Do all the prep work first.
Yep.
Yeah,
even if you're finishing, even if you're finishing a half a sheet of plywood to make your cuts out with, the time saved and the money saved as far as that goes is well worth prepping that whole piece and just going behind it and cutting it out. It'll save you more time and money in the long run than picking out, weeding, things like that. There's also I have an air collar, but there's also that one somebody else makes, the indirect air, to where it's actually blowing that soot and debris away from it as it engraves it, so it doesn't have a chance to settle onto the material. So there's a couple of different ways to kind of go about it, I guess. But
now, if you move it to different materials, like I see on Facebook all the time, and granted, I'm in Kentucky, so bourbon barrels are a dime a dozen, but white oak is white oak, and that's all bourbon barrels are. White oak sucks to engrave. It's horrible. Red oak is just as bad and almost as worse. So once you do your engrave, what is that? Score the outside edges of your letters. It'll give you a nice crisp line.
Fill line.
And it will, or line, thank you. Once you hit those, after it's engraved, come back and score it or line it. And then your letters turn extremely crisp and they stay fairly dark. Is another option to watch with some of the thinner plywood, that you're going fast enough and not cutting through it.
Minimal power, fast speed. Basically, that's what you want to do on your line fill.
We do a lot of plaques and gifts and things like that for the military. So it's nonstop playing with the different materials. Hope it helped, George.
So another thing, whenever you're weeding, this is
Thank
probably
you.
a trick more used on, maybe not on some surfaces, but duct tape over the top of your stuff when you're done. That helps rip that stuff off real nice. But I don't know if I'd use it on regular wood. It may pull some splinters if it's cheap stuff.
Oh, sorry.
On line layers, the only thing I'd say caution about that on small details with like letters and stuff, your machine, even though you set the layer speed at 150, that's just think of it as a speed limit on the interstate, but you're driving on a mountain road. You're not going to go 150 for most of it. So you get inconsistent coloring. Even if you set them in power low, you're still going to get that inconsistent coloring around corners and sharp curves and stuff. Dang the stupid phone. I was going to show y'all something if it would stop rotating. But there's another mode that's probably not widely known about or used. Let me see if I can prevent the rotation. There we go. Let's see if y'all can see. It's horrible. But anyway, so you can kind of see on Elmer Fudd the darkening around like all the areas and stuff. If I move it, the one in the middle now, it won't focus, but there's a mode called dot mode. It's in your layer setup and it keeps a consistent speed. So think of perf mode, but perf mode still drives around in whatever accelerations and decelerations of your curves. Dot mode actually moves to a point and you set the spacing, fires the laser, moves to the next point, fires the laser again, moves to the next point, fires the laser. So it's super consistent, you know, the same 10% power, 15% power, no speed acceleration issues. It takes a little longer, but the result, like say on that small text, is beautiful. It's very, very consistent, but it probably takes 4 or 5 times as long to do, but you know, you don't get that darkening of the corners. It's an awesome mode. And it's cool to watch the laser do it too. So like if you're getting like delicate materials like those leatherettes or really, really thin wood, or you just want that consistent look, dot mode really, really gives you that.
And where's that
Right.
located again?
Under your line layer advanced tab. So you'll turn off perf mode, you'll turn off tabs, and then you can turn on line mode, and it will overwrite your speed. Like even though the preview time is going to show you the speed doesn't change, it will take longer because the laser's doing physical moves and just, you know, pulsing the laser at your given speed, and you give it a time too. So if you want to change how much energy is input to a certain area, you can adjust that, and it's just super consistent. You're not worried again, you know, whenever it gets to the corner of an F or a corner of an E where it has to slow down, basically turn, you know, a hard 90, it just does it, you know, step pulse, step pulse, step pulse. So I thought it was cool. I liked it. I did on MDF. I had a comparison of perf mode, line mode, and dot mode, trying to show the difference in the three.
Brian's liking this because we're 44 minutes in and he's only had to say about 5 words.
Exactly. No, we were talking about switching it up, you know, and then we were like, well, we ought to get like Grant in here once, you know, we could switch up with him too. Because I think this originally started off to be kind of like a pre-sales question kind of thing. So, and then they were going to heavily promote it with their social people, marketing people, and then I'm not sure if that's happening either. So, I'm just going to leave it the way it is until, you know, and let it evolve into what it wants to be. Unless y'all want me to pull out the manual for the last 15 minutes, we can still. Where did we get to? I think we're still at chapter 1, right? We've never actually pulled the trigger on that thing. I just used it as a terrible joke.
I thought you still at the index.
Yeah, I'm still table of contents. We'll start there.
Find the first misspelled word.
Oh man, or wrong link.
Yeah.
So that's another thing that is on our to-do list at some point is check out the manual, kind of revamp it with some other stuff.
Travis must be still swamped. I know he's had some very long days and very long weeks.
Yeah.
They get those in Alaska.
Yeah, he is swamped. Heck, I was looking at their sunrise and their sunset. They're already, I think it was an hour earlier than what we are already on sunrise. And they're like an hour and a half on their sunset. They're already got way longer daylight than what we have down here already. That's like, wow, it's impressive.
Mm-hmm. Well, I usually keep my windows blacked out because for the first 2 years, I didn't know if it was day or night. So that wouldn't even affect me. But I've started letting in the light again. I'm going to start letting the birds chirp. It's getting nice enough out there. Y'all can hear my birds chirp next week, maybe. Oh, wait. Yeah,
We're all
next week.
not moles though.
Well,
We don't
no.
like all the dark.
I used to do that at my other job when I did the copier thing. I was in the service department over there, and I had this big old office, and I'd turn all the lights off, and I just have the computer screen lighting my face up, and they'd be like, "Is he here?" They'd never know if I was here, because my light would stay off all the time, and they'd have to stick their head in and see if they saw my face illuminated all bluish white from the monitors. But yeah, that's that. I work well in that element. Just I have my screens, and everything else is just a blur. But I'm starting to get away from that. I'm starting to see the light. I haven't turned into steam or evaporated or anything being outside yet or burned up. So I guess it's okay for me to go be in direct sunlight.
So you're not screaming the second you walk outside.
Right. Probably do me to get some sun, some vitamin C.
It's vitamin D.
Yeah,
Is it?
I just left it alone.
Is it?
Yeah, it's D.
He takes it, and everybody calls me a plant. I literally have to go stand in the sun, or I'm depressed. On cloudy, miserable days.
It's not seasonal.
It's not seasonal. It's literally, if we've got miserable, cloudy days and rain like it has been here lately, I'm horrible. I don't want to work. There's no sense. I might as well just curl back up and go back to bed. But yeah, exactly. We got a lot of crap to do. So it's they keep telling me I'm like a damn plant. Photosynthesis is what makes me grow.
So you wouldn't have made a very good Noah in the past life, I guess.
No. Well, I was fine in Alaska years ago when I was younger. When you talk about 2 hours of daylight for 9 months out of the year.
Mm-hmm.
What frequency of lights you running in your shop?
They're all LED, they're all LEDs.
I mean, you should say what Calvin. Are you running 50?
What color?
50,
they look about 5,500.
I'd say they look like 55 or 6500s.
This is hers. Mine's in a whole different room.
Because if you have a less intensity, it's actually been proven if you stay in where you got more blue lights, like the 55 and the 65s, it does help with the seasonal quote unquote depression thing versus running your 28 and your 4200s.
Oh, and that's a pet peeve of mine because I got all LED stuff and we've replaced everything, and my wife will get the ones that are the daylight, and
65s.
all of the rest of mine are the cold white ones, the bluish white.
Yeah.
And when you get them and mix them, it makes me do weirder stuff.
What's amazing though is when you're messing with your colors and stuff, and I have to be sitting out here in the shop and somebody will tell me they want like a warm color, and I'm looking at it with the shop lights. I have to literally walk in the house, walk in the kitchen, turn the lights on the kitchen so I can get what it'll be like in most people's homes versus what it looks like in my shop.
Yeah. Need to get you a photo of a light, one of those LED panels for doing lighting up still photography, because you can adjust the color on it, and that way you can have it as a.
Yeah, I know. I need to get it in the
flood.
paint booth so that way I can change it over lights quickly.
Change your color, change the heat. Yeah, that'd be neat.
I like vitamin C as well. SEK.
There's Sam.
Nobody heard that. I like vitamin C as well. SEA, the ocean.
I gotcha.
Yeah, me too. That's one way to completely.
I like vitamin
chill.
C food.
Had some vitamin C food last night. Wife and I went out for. I got salmon and she got prime rib. It was really good.
Nice.
There
Yeah, I'm
we
a
are.
big surf and turf fan, but I like scallops and stuff like that too. I like shark. I like squid. I like all kinds of stuff. I don't like puffer fish. I haven't tried that.
What about moose?
I have not tried moose. Is it anything like venison?
That is it
No.
is the best red meat out there.
Really?
I've had moose, elk,
Travis?
caribou. Moose by far
This is the reason why I said moose, because he popped on.
Travis, you got any moose over there handy?
You're muted.
He's moosed.
There. So yeah, I've got moose. I'm not giving you any though.
It's that good?
It is.
No, I haven't tried moose. I don't even know if I can get it around here. I'll have to try my local meat guy. Maybe he can
You
come
got a
up with a
Cabela's?
source.
You can't. Typically, you can't get it in stores because it's not farm raised.
You got a Cabela's around you?
Nashville, maybe 40 miles.
Sometimes Cabela's, the ones that's got like the super ones, it's got the restaurants in them. Sometimes you can get moose because you'll get your different meats in there if you ever wanted to just try it out.
What you got going on there,
The
George?
top one's a lot darker. It looks like.
Top one's engraved. The bottom one's just done as a line, no fill.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of hard to focus.
Okay. Yeah.
Playing around with some settings.
I might be
go get some lacquer thinner,
shifting
though.
the whole market here with settings here, hopefully.
Yeah, you never responded back to my last message.
What'd you say?
I said if you needed a test dummy.
Oh.
I said an idiot that doesn't know what they're doing.
I figure, if I send it to you, if you can use it, then anyone can use it.
That's the reason why I said send it down here. Some idiot can use it. Hell, we know it's golden.
Yep. So yeah, the only issue that I'm running into now is so it's got to get pretty hot for it to shift that color or the color like that. But I'm trying to figure out. I'm going through all my chemistry stuff, trying to figure out how to neutralize it. So once you do engrave it and hang it up or whatever, if it ever gets hot, right now it runs the risk of all of it shifting. So I'm trying to figure out how to neutralize it after parts of it have shifted color.
I wasn't going to bring it up until you brought it up. So I was waiting for the non-recorded section or whatever.
What time is it? 3:53. You got 7 more minutes, then I can turn it off. Does anybody have any questions while we're still in normal mode?
Nope, but here pretty soon you can kiss the whole baking soda and borax solutions goodbye. I'm coming up with a new solution.
This is what we were just chatting about.
It activates with heat and it chemically burns the wood wherever it's applied, but only to the areas that you apply heat to. So,
well, Icon Art's got that heat paste that you can stencil on and then use a blow dryer to make that turn colors.
It's similar to that, but yeah, this stuff's a little different.
So I think it helps with like consistency on bamboo and stuff like that. And then a lot of people have also been doing this intermixing powder coat into the wood. You burn it, you fill the powder coat, then you laser it again and melt the powder coat to the wood.
Yeah,
kind of interesting.
This will make it so you can actually engrave at 1,000 millimeters a second and get dark colored burns. And you'll be running, like on my Nova 63 130, right now I'm sitting at about 8.5% power at 1,000 millimeters a second and getting dark burns.
Is it staying consistent?
55-gallon drum, please.
It's staying very consistent.
Where do I send the check?
Yeah.
Are you gonna let it? You're gonna set it outside and let it weather for a couple of months so you can see how well it retains its thing, or?
Oh, it's not going anywhere.
Expose it to light.
It's actually chemically burned, so it's not a stain. It's never gonna fade. It's there. So the only concern that I'm running into right now is once it's on there, technically, if anything, I think the point is like, what is this, like 185 degrees or something that it has to hit, or 200 degrees, somewhere in there, that it has to hit for the chemical reaction to start. So I'm trying to figure out how to neutralize this solution. So once you spray your whole board, you laser engrave it, and then you will have to spray a neutralizing solution over the top of it. So
it won't darken like
leaving
a concert ticket on your dash.
Huh?
So it won't darken over with heat like a concert ticket does when you leave it on your dash?
Correct. Yeah. So yeah, so that's what we're trying to figure out right now. I mean, we've got neutralizing solutions for it, but they're colored, so it discolors the wood. So I'm trying to come up with one that's clear.
Can you filter it through some bread? I know you can filter ice blue aquavelva through loaves of bread, and it comes out where it's not colored anymore.
I don't think that will work. But yeah, this stuff will be pretty cool because it'll ship out as a powder, and you just mix it with water and shake it up, and away you go.
No green clouds to contend with, or the EPA knocking on your door at
Yeah,
midnight.
I'm gonna say, what's
Nope.
the
It's
toxicity?
complete.
MSD
This is
sheets
the stuff
included?
I'm using is 100% non-toxic.
So we can drink it.
Oh, he sounds like a snake oil salesman now.
I
It'll
would
burn
not
your wood
suggest
chemically, but
drinking it, but it
won't.
is
Your baby
non-toxic.
can drink it.
Just because you could drink it doesn't mean you should.
Well, that could be said for a lot of things. Yeah. I'm gonna kick off the recording here.